Wedding morning disaster. Abandoned. Then my FBI fiancé made 3 discreet calls. The sun rose like any other day in San Diego, but for me, Lieutenant Lauren Mitchell of the United States Navy, it was no ordinary day. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, my wedding. At 28, after 5 years in the Navy and 3 years in a relationship with Ryan, an FBI special agent, I would finally be wearing white and saying I do to the man I loved. I woke to the sound of waves crashing on the beach near the house my mother had rented for the occasion. The beachfront residence in Coronado was perfect, large enough to accommodate my family and bridesmaids, and with a spectacular view that would be the backdrop for the sunset ceremony. I rubbed my eyes and smiled, feeling that mix of excitement and nervousness every bride must feel. "Lauren, it's time to get up." My mother's voice rang out through the hallway, followed by a quick knock on the door. "Coffee's ready, and the hairdresser's coming in an hour." "I'm awake, Mom," I replied, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. I grabbed my phone to text Ryan, following our morning tradition of wishing each other a good morning. I typed a quick "good morning, future husband," and sent it, figuring he was also waking up at the hotel where he'd spent the night with his groomsmen. While I waited for an answer, I opened the curtains and let the sunlight flood into the room. The sky was perfectly without a single cloud. At least the weather is cooperating, I thought. 15 minutes later, still no response from Ryan. I walked into the kitchen where my mom was making blueberry pancakes, my favorite breakfast since childhood. "Did you sleep well, dear?" she asked, placing a plate in front of me. "Better than I expected," I replied, checking my phone again. "No, Ryan. He's probably still sleeping," my mother said, sensing my uneasiness. "After the bachelor party, he must need some catching up on his sleep." I nodded, but something felt off. Ryan never slept late, even after long nights. It was a habit formed from years of working high-profile cases. "The FBI has changed its hours, but not its habits," he often said. I tried calling him while I ate, but it went straight to voicemail. "Hi, you've reached Ryan Callahan. Leave a message. Hey love, it's me. Just checking in on you this morning. Call me when you can. Love you." An hour later, with the stylist already working on my younger sister and bridesmaid, Emma's hair, my concern began to grow. I tried Ryan again. Voicemail. "Try calling one of the groomsmen," Emma suggested, seeing my tense expression in the mirror. I called Mike, Ryan's best friend since the FBI Academy. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice strangely hesitant. "Mike, it's Lauren. Are you with Ryan? I haven't been able to reach him since yesterday." An awkward silence followed before Mike answered. "Lauren, no, I'm not with him right now. Where is he? Shouldn't you guys be getting ready together?" Another silence. Then, "Lauren, I don't know how to say this, but Ryan didn't come back to the hotel last night." My stomach sank. "What? What do you mean he didn't come back? Where is he?" "We don't know. He left the bar before us, saying he had to do something. We thought he had gone back to the hotel, but when I got there in the morning to wake him up, the room was empty. The bed hadn't even been made." I felt the blood drain from my face. The stylist stopped, working on my hair, clearly realizing something was wrong. "Have you tried calling him?" I asked, knowing it was a stupid question. Of course they had, several times. "It goes straight to voicemail and no one thought to warn." My voice rose an octave, causing my mother to come running from the kitchen. "We were waiting for him to show up or give us some news. We didn't want to worry you on your day. Well, I'm worried now." I yelled, then took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. "I'm sorry, Mike. It's not your fault. I'll try to find out what's going on." I hung up and quickly explained the situation to my mother and Emma. Their expressions varied between concern and anger. "He wouldn't do that," I said, more to myself than to them. "Something must have happened. I'll call the hospitals," my mother said, immediately practical as ever. Emma took my hand. "Maybe he had a work emergency." I shook my head. "He would have warned me. And he would have answered my calls." The next 2 hours were a whirlwind of calls and messages. No one knew where Ryan was. His godparents began searching for him, calling every place they could think of. My mother confirmed that he hadn't been admitted to any local hospital. His boss at the FBI's San Diego office said he hadn't called Ryan in for any operations. At 11 a.m., 3 hours before I was supposed to start dressing for the ceremony, the truth began to settle like a cold weight on my chest. Ryan was gone, and with each passing minute, it became more likely that his absence was intentional. "Maybe we should start calling guests," my mother suggested softly, entering the room where I was sitting on the edge of the bed, still in my robe, my hair half done, and my cell phone in my hand, to postpone the ceremony. "No," he said firmly. "Not yet. He'll show up. He has to." But by noon, when the flowers began arriving and the event coordinator called to confirm the final details, reality was undeniable. My fiancé had disappeared. I had been abandoned on my wedding day. "I'll kill him when he shows up," Emma said, pacing the room like a kid. "If he shows up," my mother murmured, probably thinking I hadn't heard. It was at that moment that my phone vibrated. It wasn't a call, but an email from Ryan. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open the message. When I finally read it, I wished I hadn't. "Lauren, I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't. I'm not the person you think I am. I'm not the person I thought I was. You deserve someone better. Someone who can give you what you deserve. Don't come to me. I'm sorry." Ryan, the tears I had been holding back all morning, finally came, streaming down my face and smudging the makeup the makeup artist had just applied. "That son of a bitch," Emma said, reading over my shoulder. "Coward. He didn't even have the guts to call you." My mom hugged me tightly as I cried. "I'm going to start canceling everything," she said softly. But something about the message didn't make sense. "I'm not the person you think I am." What did that mean? Ryan and I had no secrets, or at least I thought we did. As the house transformed into a crisis management center, with my mother and aunts calling guests, vendors, and the reception venue, I sat on the oceanfront deck, still in my robe, trying to process what had happened. My cell phone rang, and for a moment my heart raced, thinking it might be Ryan, but it was just the ceremony coordinator confirming the cancellation. It was then that I noticed a man on the beach walking toward the house. I recognized him instantly. It was Carter Daniels, Ryan's FBI colleague and one of the groomsmen. I hadn't seen him the day before, as he was on assignment in Los Angeles and was due to arrive just a few hours before the ceremony. I walked down the steps that led to the sand to find him. "Lauren," he said, his face serious. "I just found out. I'm sorry. Did you talk to him?" I asked. Immediately, Carter shook his head. "No. No one could get a hold of him. I came straight here as soon as Mike told me. He emailed me. He said he can't do this, that he's not the person I think he is." My voice cracked. "What the hell does that mean, Carter?" Carter looked away, staring at the ocean for a moment. "I don't know, Lauren, but I'll find out. I promise." There was something strange about the way he said it, a certain stiffness in his tone that captured my attention even through the haze of pain and confusion. "You know something," I accused. "Tell me." "I don't know anything specific," he replied carefully, "but I know Ryan. This isn't normal for him. Something must have happened. What could have happened that would make you run away from our wedding without a word? That would make you send a ridiculous email instead of facing me like a man?" Carter ran a hand through his hair, clearly uncomfortable. "I don't know, but I'll find out, Lauren. You have my word." At that moment, I watched Carter pick up the phone and walk away a few steps. He made a quick call, spoke a few words in a low voice I couldn't hear, and then put the phone back away. "What was that?" I asked. "Nothing. Just checking something." But his face had changed, becoming more reserved, more professional. He knew that expression. It was the same one he'd seen on Ryan when he was working on a big case. "Carter," he said firmly. "What's going on?" He hesitated for a moment, then said, "Let's go inside. We need to talk in private." I followed him back into the house, past my family, who were still in crisis, and into the office at the end of the hall. Carter closed the door behind us. "What I'm about to tell you is confidential, Lauren, and technically, I shouldn't be telling you anything." My heart started beating faster. "Is this about Ryan?" Carter nodded. "But it's not what you think. Ryan didn't abandon you, Lauren. At least not by choice." "What does this mean?" "It means I believe Ryan is in danger. Or worse, that he may be compromised." "Committed? What do you mean?" Carter sighed. "About 6 months ago, We began to suspect that someone within the Bureau was passing information to an organized crime syndicate we're investigating. Sensitive information about operations, informant identities, that sort of thing. And you think it's Ryan? I asked incredulously. That's absurd. No, I don't think it's Ryan, but... double quotes, Carter paused, choosing his words carefully. In the last few weeks, we've found evidence that could implicate him. What evidence? I demanded to know. Financial transfers, encrypted communications, suspicious behavior patterns. Nothing conclusive, but enough to raise red flags. This is ridiculous. Ryan is the most honest man I've ever met. He dedicates his life to the FBI, to justice. I agree with you, Carter said, surprising me. That's why some of us believe he's being framed, but not all of us. The implication of? This hit me like a punch. Are you saying he ran away because he's being investigated? Carter shook his head. I'm not sure. It's possible he found out about the investigation and panicked, but the Ryan I know would face the accusations head-on. It's more likely, double quotes, what? That he discovered something. Something big. Something that put him in danger. My head was spinning. This all sounded like the plot of a bad movie. Why didn't he tell me? Why run away on our wedding day? Maybe to protect you, Carter suggested. If he's being watched, if he's in danger, the last thing he'd want to do is drag you into it. But that email, he was sent to cut clean ties, so that you wouldn't look for him, so that whoever is after him wouldn't come after you too. I sat down heavily in the nearest chair. This is crazy, Carter. I know it sounds like it, but it makes sense. I've known Ryan for years. We've worked together on dozens of cases. He's not a traitor, and he's not a coward. So, what do we do now? I asked, a new determination growing within me. We're not doing anything, Carter said firmly. I and some trusted agents will discreetly investigate. You'll go on with your life as if you believed Ryan abandoned you. No way, I protested. I'm not going to sit around and wait while Ryan is in danger. Lauren, you're a Navy officer. You know the chain of command, the importance of discretion in sensitive operations. If Ryan is hiding, or if he's being held against his will, the worst thing we can do is alert those in charge that we know something is wrong. He was right, and I hated it. My military training told me Carter was following proper protocol, but my heart wanted to run through the streets screaming Ryan's. How long? I asked finally. I don't know. Days, maybe weeks. And what do I tell everyone in the meantime? Over 200 people were coming to the wedding, Carter. My family, friends, Navy buddies, double quotes the truth, or at least the official version of it. That Ryan had a breakdown, that he ran away, that you don't know where he is. What if he doesn't come back? What if whoever is behind this has already... I couldn't finish the sentence. Carter knelt in front of me, holding my hands. Lauren, I promise I'll find him. Ryan is my friend too. I won't give up on him. At that moment, I saw Carter make 2 more quick calls. Again, he moved away so I couldn't hear, but I caught a few phrases. I need access to camera traffic. Records, double quotes on one call, and check all airports and bus stations within 100 miles, double quotes on another. When he finished, he turned to me. Now I have to go. I have to start searching before the trail goes cold. What do I do in the meantime? I asked, feeling completely lost. Act like a jilted bride, he said seriously. Cry, scream, get angry. The more convincing your performance, the better. When Carter left, I was alone in the office with an impossible mission, to pretend my heart was broken because I'd been dumped, when in reality, it was broken with worry for Ryan. I returned to the living room, where my family was still managing the chaos of the cancellation. My mother looked at me with worried eyes. What did Carter want? Just apologizing for Ryan, I lied, hating every word. Apparently, he'd been showing signs of nervousness that no one took seriously. That coward, my father grumbled from the corner of the room. If I find him, please, I begged, genuine tears filling my eyes. I don't want to talk about this right now. In the hours that followed, I played my role perfectly. I called my closest friends, cried on the phone, and accepted their words of comfort and outrage. I received messages of sympathy from guests as the news spread. I sat on the couch in shock as my mother canceled the caterer, the DJ, and the photographer. All this while, my mind raced, trying to understand what was really happening to Ryan. If he was truly in danger, why hadn't he reached out to me for help? Why that cold, impersonal email? If he was trying to protect me, why hadn't he left some clue, some code that only I would understand? The next morning, I woke after a restless night's sleep to find the house quiet. My family had finally gone to sleep after spending the whole day caring for me and dealing with the aftermath of my abandonment. I got up and walked to the balcony, watching the sun rise over the ocean, the same ocean that should have been the backdrop for my wedding. In that moment of solitude, I let the reality of the situation sink in. It didn't matter if Ryan had left me by choice or if he was in danger. The outcome was the same. He was gone and I was alone, humiliated, and confused. My phone rang, startling me. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" I answered, my heart racing with hope. "Lauren, it's Carter." His voice was tense, urgent. "I need you to come find me. Now, did you find him?" "Not by phone. Just come. Cafe Azul on Ocean Boulevard, 30 minutes. Come alone and don't tell anyone where you're going." He hung up before I could ask any more questions. I rushed to get changed, leaving a vague note for my family saying I needed some time alone and had gone for a walk. Cafe Azul was nearly empty when I arrived, just a few early risers sipping coffee. Carter sat in a secluded corner, dressed casually instead of his usual FBI suit, and wearing sunglasses even inside. "What did you find out?" I asked as soon as I sat down. "Not much," he admitted, sounding tired, "but enough to make sure my suspicions were correct. Ryan didn't run away from the wedding. He's investigating something big, something dangerous." "How do you know that?" "He left a trail. Discreet, but it's there if you know where to look. He used one of our emergency protocols for undercover agents." "And what does that mean?" "It means he's okay, or at least he was when he sent the signal. But it also means we can't contact him directly. He'll come to us when it's safe, and until then, you continue your life, go back to work, act like you've been abandoned." "For how long, Carter?" "I can't live like this indefinitely." Carter sighed. "I don't know. But trust me when I say Ryan is doing this to protect you, to protect us all." Just then, I noticed a man enter the cafe and sit at the counter. There was nothing particularly suspicious about him, but something about the way Carter tensed up made me pay attention. "Do you know that man?" I asked quietly. "No," Carter said, taking a calm sip of coffee. "But he followed me here, and he's probably following you too." My blood ran cold. "What? Why?" "Because you're important to Ryan, and whoever's behind this knows it. So I'm bait?" "No." Carter shook his head. "You're a means to an end. If they watch you, maybe it'll lead them to Ryan eventually. And what do I do now?" "Nothing different. Live your life. Get back to work. Act normally, with someone following." "Me?" I asked in disbelief. "Yes. And in the meantime, I'll keep investigating." In the days that followed, I returned to the naval base where I served as an intelligence officer. My superiors were understanding, offering a few days off, which I politely declined. Work was what I needed. Something to occupy my mind, something to keep me from obsessing over Ryan's disappearance and the sinister implications Carter had suggested. I realized I was being watched, not just by the man at the cafe, but by others as well. Different faces, but the same watchful eyes, the same constant presence in the peripheries of my life. At the gym, at the supermarket, even at the church, where I occasionally went to find peace. A week passed without any news from Ryan or any significant updates from Carter. Then, one Thursday night, as I sat in my small apartment having refused to stay at the beach house after the wedding was canceled, I heard a knock on the door. Cautiously, I grabbed the gun I kept. In the safe next to my bed had a habit Ryan had encouraged me to adopt, considering our jobs, and walked to the door. "Who is it?" I called. "Delivery to Lauren Mitchell," an unfamiliar voice replied. I wasn't expecting anything. I looked through the peephole and saw a young man in a delivery uniform holding a small box. "Leave it at the door, please," she instructs, still cautious. "I need a signature, man," I sighed, unlocked the door, keeping the gun hidden behind me, and opened it just enough to sign the receipt. The delivery man handed me the box and left. There was no return address, just my name and address printed on a generic label. Inside, I found only a key, the kind used in hotel safe, and a card with the handwritten number 237. Nothing else. No note, no explanation. My phone rang almost immediately. "Carter, did you receive anything?" he asked without preamble. "Yes, a key and a number. 237. Does it mean anything to you?" "Hotel Pacifica, room number 237. Ryan and I have used that hotel for clandestine meetings with informants in the past. Should I go there now?" "No. Tomorrow, on your lunch break, act normal, and Lauren, be careful. We don't know what you'll find there." The next morning, I went about my normal routine. I woke up at 5:30 a.m., ran 5 kilometers, showered, put on my uniform, and headed to base. I worked on my usual tasks, attended a staff meeting, and at 12:30 p.m., I went out for lunch. The Hotel Pacifica was a low-key establishment about 20 minutes from the base. It was neither luxurious nor run down, the kind of place that didn't attract attention. With my heart racing, I went up to the second floor and found room 237. I took a deep breath, inserted the key, and opened the door, not knowing what to expect. The room was empty, or at least empty of people. On the bed were a briefcase, a laptop, and a cell phone that I recognized as a model used by the FBI for operations. I picked up the phone first. There was only one contact. In my address book, see, presumably Carter, and only one message in my inbox: "If you're reading this, don't trust anyone. Not even me. R.R. Ryan." My heart leaped. It was the first concrete proof I had that he was alive, that he was acting on his own. I opened the folder next. Inside were surveillance photos, phone transcripts, and financial reports. At first glance, it looked like the kind of material Ryan typically worked with in his investigations. But upon closer inspection, I realized that all the documents pointed to one person, Carter Daniel. Photos showed Carter meeting with shady-looking men. Financial reports indicated large deposits in offshore accounts linked to. Transcripts showed him trading information about FBI operations. Carter was the traitor, not Ryan. My personal phone rang, startling me. It was Carter. "Found something?" he asked. My mind raced furiously. If Carter was the traitor, then everything he'd told me was a lie. He wasn't trying to help Ryan, was trying to find him and silence him. "Nothing useful," I lied. "Just a messy bed and an old newspaper." "Strange," Carter said, his voice revealing a slight note of disappointment. "I thought Ryan would have left something for us." "Go back to base then. We'll keep looking." "Yes, I'm going," he said, already planning to do the exact opposite. As soon as I turned it off, I grabbed the laptop and saw that it was on and unlocked. On the screen was a single document open. "Lauren, if you're reading this, it means my suspicions were correct. Carter is working for Anton Volkov, a Russian oligarch with connections to organized crime. He's been selling information about our operations for years. I discovered this 3 days before our wedding and started gathering evidence. Then he discovered I knew. I had to disappear to complete my investigation and, more importantly, to keep you safe. The email you received was written under duress. Carter was with me when I sent it. Forgive me for all the pain I've caused. There's a second phone in the desk drawer. Use it to contact me when you're alone and safe. Destroy this laptop after. I love you. I always have." Ryan. Tears streamed down my face as I read Ryan's words. Relief, fear, and anger mingled in an emotional storm. Ryan hadn't abandoned me. He was trying to protect me, protect us both, and I almost fell into Carter's trap. I quickly copied all the files to a USB drive I always carried with me, then followed Ryan's instructions and formatted the laptop. I found the second phone in the drawer and hid it in my pocket along with the USB drive. When I left the hotel, I immediately noticed a black car parked across the street, with a man sitting in the driver's seat, watching the entrance. One of Carter's henchmen, no doubt. Or maybe that Volkov guy. Instead of heading to my car, I ducked into a department store adjacent to the hotel and exited through the back entrance, hailing a taxi back to base. I needed time to think, to plan my next move. Back in my office, I locked the door and called my commander, requesting the rest of the day off for personal reasons. He agreed without question. everyone at base was still treating me with kid gloves since the wedding incident, as some were discreetly calling it. At home, with the curtains closed, and after carefully checking that I hadn't been followed, I picked up the phone Ryan had left and called. There was only one number programmed in. I dialed. It rang once before being answered. Lauren? Ryan's voice, strained but unmistakable, made my heart leap. Ryan, I whispered, the tears coming back full force. Is that really you? Yes, love, it's me. Are you safe? Alone? Yeah, I'm home. I made sure I wasn't followed. Ryan, what the hell is going on? I read your files on Carter, but ... it's worse than the files show, Ryan interrupted. Carter isn't just selling information. He's actively sabotaging operations, putting agents at risk. 3 agents have died in operations in the last year because their covers were compromised, and it all points back to him. Why didn't you go to the FBI director with this? Because I don't know where this goes. Who's involved? Carter has friends in high places. I need irrefutable evidence before I expose myself. And in the meantime, you let me think you'd abandoned me? I couldn't help the note of hurt in my voice. Lauren, I'm so sorry. More than I can say. I was at the FBI office finalizing some reports before the wedding when I found evidence in Carter to Volkov. I confronted him privately, thinking we were friends, that maybe there was some explanation. It was a mistake. He pulled a gun, forced me to send you that email, and kept me under surveillance for 2 days. How did you escape? During a transfer. They were taking me to a warehouse outside the city, presumably to dispose of me more discreetly. I managed to overpower the driver when Carter wasn't present. Since then, I've been hiding, collecting more evidence. What now? What do we do? Now that you know the truth, you're in danger too. They saw you enter the hotel today. We need to act fast. I have the flash drive with the evidence, he said. We could take it directly to Director Brown. He's always trusted you, Ryan. It's risky, but it might be our best option right now. The problem is getting to him without alerting Carter or his ally. Just then, I heard a sound outside my door. Footsteps. In the hallway. Ryan, I whispered urgently. I think someone's here. Get out of there now, he ordered. Use the fire escape by your bedroom window. There's a car waiting for you in the supermarket parking lot 2 blocks away. A silver Nissan Sentra. The key is under the rear bumper. Drive north to Julian. I have a safe house there. I'll call you with more precise instructions once you're on the road, okay? I said, already moving toward the bedroom. And Ryan, ... I love you. I love you. To Lauren, more than anything, please be careful. I hung up the phone, grabbed my gun and a small bag of essentials I kept ready for emergencies, another habit acquired from dating an FBI agent, and quietly opened the bedroom window. The fire escape creaked slightly under my weight, but I managed to climb down without making much noise. As I crept down the alleyway to the side of my building, I heard the distinct sound of breaking glass. Someone had forced their way into my apartment. Keeping to the shadows, I ran toward the supermarket, constantly checking to see if I was being followed. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I found the Nissan exactly where Ryan said it would. I retrieved the key, got in, and started it, keeping the lights off until I was a few blocks away. On the interstate toward Julian, a small town in the mountains northeast of San Diego, I finally let the adrenaline subside a bit. My mind was racing with questions. How had Carter become a traitor? How long had this been going on? Who else was involved? More importantly, how would Ryan and I get out of this situation alive? The phone Ryan had given me rang when I was halfway to Julian. Lauren? Are you okay? The concern in his voice was palpable. I'm fine. On the road to Julian, like you said. I don't think I was followed. Great. When you get to town, stop at the gas station at the entrance. Ditch the Nissan and take the red pickup truck parked behind. The key will be in the sun visor. Ryan, this is crazy. It sounds like something out of one of your cases. I know, love, and I'm sorry for dragging you into this. But I promise I'll fix everything. It's not your fault. It's Carter's. Yes, but I was the one who brought him into our lives. I should have realized it sooner. How could we know? He was your friend? Your colleague? Ryan was silent for— There's something I haven't told you yet, Lauren. Something that might explain why I missed the signs. What? Carter and I have a history. Before the FBI, we served together in the Special Forces. He saved my life in Afghanistan. I trusted him completely because of that. This was a surprising revelation. Ryan had mentioned his time in the military before joining the FBI, but he had never said he knew Carter from that time. So, you think he's cheating on you for some personal reason? I don't know. Maybe it's just money. Volkov pays his informants well. Or maybe something has changed in him. Over the years, people changed, not all, he said firmly. Some remain faithful no matter what, like you, Ryan said, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Never doubted me, did you? In fact, I had doubted it. For a brief, terrible moment when I read your email, but that didn't matter now. Never. I lied. I knew something was wrong. I followed Ryan's instructions and switched cars at the gas station in Julian. The red pickup truck was old and flashy, not exactly what I'd expect as a getaway vehicle, but maybe that was the point. No one would search for fugitives in such a conspicuous vehicle. After another half hour of driving, climbing higher and higher into the mountain, Ryan directed me to turn onto a dirt road barely visible between the trees. About 2 kilometers down that road, I found a small wooden cabin, partially hidden by the vegetation. Ryan was waiting on the porch, his silhouette illuminated by the dim light coming from inside. When I turned off the engine and got out of the car, he ran down the steps and wrapped me in a hug that nearly took my breath away. Lauren, he whispered against my hair, I missed you so much. For a moment we stayed like that, clinging to each other as if the world might end if we parted. Then, reluctantly, Ryan pulled away. Let's go in. It's not safe for us to be exposed. The cabin was small and rustic, but surprisingly well equipped. There was a generator providing electricity, running water, and what appeared to be a sophisticated communications system on a table in the corner. Is this your place? I asked, looking around. Not officially. It's an FBI safe house that few know about. Carter isn't one of them. And what do we do now? Ryan led me to the desk, where more files were scattered, along with a laptop and several phones. Now we've compiled everything we have and sent it directly to Director Brown. This is our best chance. We worked together for the next few hours, organizing evidence, connecting the dots, creating a complete timeline of Carter's betrayal. How did you initially find out? I asked as Ryan sighed. It was an accident, actually. I was reviewing some old case files for a crime pattern report, and I noticed discrepancies in cases where Carter was the lead agent, informants who disappeared, operations that failed at the last minute, suspects who seemed to know exactly when and where to avoid our traps. And that led you to Volk? Yes. When I started investigating further, I found encrypted communications between Carter and an intermediary working for Volkov. That's when I realized the extent of the betrayal. As Ryan spoke, something occurred to me. Why did Carter tell you about the investigation against you? Why come to me and tell me you were being framed? Ryan shook his head. Control of the narrative. He needed to know where I was, what I knew, and most importantly, he needed to make sure you didn't suspect him. So he was using me as bait, waiting for you to contact me? Probably. He knew I'd eventually try to reach you, explain what was going on. Ryan's secure phone rang, interrupting our conversation. He answered, his face growing more serious by the second. Understood. Thanks for the heads up. He hung up and turned to me. We have a problem. One of the few agents I trust just informed me that Carter has mobilized a tactical team, claiming to have located a dangerous suspect. He's on his way here. How did he find us? I don't know. Maybe the car had a tracker that I couldn't find. Maybe it has more resources than I imagined. Ryan began moving quickly through the cabin, gathering files and equipment. We need to get out of here. Now. Where to? Straight to the FBI office in San Diego. To Director Brown. It's our only chance now. I helped Ryan pack everything into backpacks as he continued explaining. If we get to the director before Carter, with all this evidence, he'll have to listen to us. He'll Have to act. What if Carter gets there first? Ryan looked at me gravely. Then we probably won't get out of the FBI building. We left the cabin's back door and entered the dense forest. Ryan clearly knew the terrain, leading me along a nearly invisible path that led down the... There's another vehicle hidden about a kilometer from here, he explained as we walked quickly. A Jeep. It'll be able to take us back to the main road by a different route. We'd barely covered half the distance when we heard the sound of approaching helicopters. Ryan pulled me under the canopy, hiding us from aerial view. Damn, he muttered. They brought in air support. That complicates things. We continued forward, now more cautiously, using the cover of the trees. Behind us, we could hear voices and the sound of branches snapping. Men in the forest, searching for us. Over there, Ryan pointed ahead, where I could see the shape of a vehicle covered in a camouflage tarp. The Jeep. We ran the last few meters, removed the tarp, and Ryan quickly started the engine. The Jeep was sturdy, built for rough terrain, and Ryan skillfully navigated a path I wouldn't have noticed if I'd been alone. The sounds of the chase faded as we descended the mountain via an alternate route. Eventually, we reached a different paved road than the one I'd used to arrive. Are we safe? I asked, looking in the rearview mirror. For now, Ryan said. But they're the FBI, Lauren. They have resources. Carter has probably already issued an alert to every law enforcement agency in the area. So how do we get to the FBI office in San Diego? Ryan smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. With a little help from my friends, he drove for about an hour, eventually arriving at a small private airport. A middle-aged man in a baseball cap was waiting for us next to a small single-engine plane. Frank, Ryan greeted the man with a firm handshake. Thank you for doing this. Anything. For you, Ryan, Frank replied. After what you did for my son. ... double quotes. Ryan nodded, apparently understanding the reference to some past history I wasn't aware of. That's the plan, Ryan explained as we boarded the plane. Frank will fly us directly to a private airfield near San Diego. From there, we'll use one of the maintenance tunnels that lead to the basement of the FBI building. It's the only way to get in undetected. There are tunnels under the FBI building, I asked, surprised. The building was built during the Cold War. There are all kinds of escape routes and secret entrances that few people know about today. As the plane took off, I felt a mixture of fear and determination. In the last 48 hours, my life had completely transformed. From jilted bride to fugitive, pursuing a conspiracy that seemed straight out of a spy thriller. But there was one thing I was sure of. Ryan hadn't abandoned me. He had risked everything to protect me and the integrity of the FBI. And now, we're risking our lives together to expose the truth. The flight was short and tense, with Ryan constantly checking his secure phone for updates from his trusted contacts within the bureau. Carter has practically mobilized the entire San Diego office, he said at one point, concern evident in his voice. He's telling everyone I've lost my mind, that I'm armed and dangerous, and that I kidnapped you. That's ridiculous. Why would anyone believe that? Because Carter is respected, Lauren, and because he's spent months planting seeds of doubt in me. Little comments here and there about my erratic behavior, suggestions that stress was getting to me. Careful preparation for this moment. But Principal Brown has known you for years. Yes, and that's why we need to get to him directly, before Carter can control him too. By the time the plane landed in the small field, it was already night. A car was waiting for us as planned, and Ryan drove quickly through the dark streets of San Diego, avoiding the main road. The FBI building will be heavily guarded, Ryan explained as we approached. But there's an entrance to the tunnel system through the parking lot of an adjacent office building. Very few people know about this connection, and you are one of them because ... because part of my job involved reviewing the building's security measures. Know every entrance, every exit, every weak point. We parked the car on a side street and walked casually to the office building Ryan had mentioned. Using a key card he pulled from his pocket, he gave us access to the underground parking garage. Where did this card come from? I asked. Contingency planning, Ryan replied simply. I always have backup plans for emergencies. On the lower level of the parking lot, Ryan led us to what appeared to be a standard maintenance room. Inside, behind some shelves of equipment, was a weathered metal door. "This is the entrance," he said, pulling out an old key. These tunnels were built in the 1960s and have been largely forgotten since. They're used occasionally by maintenance technicians, but rarely at night. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit hallway stretching into darkness. Ryan pulled 2 flashlights from his backpack, handing one to me. "Stay close," he instructed. "It's easy to get lost down here." The tunnels were a maze, with constant forks and intersections. The air was damp and musty. Ryan navigated confidently, turning left and right, without hesitation. After what seemed like about 20 minutes, we reached a metal staircase that led to a hatch in the ceiling. "This is the entrance to the basement of the FBI building," Ryan. "If my calculations are correct, we'll emerge near the archive, 2 floors below Director Brown's office. What if there are guards? By this time, most security will be on the perimeter, looking for us outside, but we need to be quick and quiet." Ryan climbed the ladder first, carefully, lifting the hatch to peer in. After a few seconds, he motioned for me to follow. We emerged into a small maintenance room filled with cleaning supplies and equipment. Ryan checked his watch. "It's 11:45 p.m. Principal Brown will probably still be in his office." Considering the situation, how will we get to him without being seen? Through the emergency stairs. They have fewer cameras and are less likely to have officers at that time. We left the maintenance room and entered the dimly lit hallway. It was quiet, but we could hear distant voices and the occasional hum of radio signs of an operation in progress. Ryan led us to a door marked emergency staircase, and we entered the stairwell. We began to climb silently. We were almost to the principal's floor when we heard the door above us open and voices approaching. Another voice replied, "We have teams checking all known entry points. They'll come here," Carter said with certainty. "Ryan will try to clear his name, and only the director can do that." What if they're already inside the building? Impossible. The perimeter is sealed. The footsteps and voices passed us and continued down. When the sound faded, Ryan and I exchanged glances. He'd heard what I'd heard. Carter was waiting for us. "He knows we'd come here," I whispered. "Yes, but he thinks we're still on the outside," Ryan replied. "We still have a chance." We continued up until we reached the director's floor. Ryan carefully opened the stairwell door, peering into the hallway. 2 agents at the door of his office. He whispered, "We need a distraction." He thought for a moment, then pulled out his phone. After a few quick rings, we heard their attention. As planned, the agents looked at each other with concern, and one of them said something into the radio before they both quickly walked away down the hallway in the opposite direction from us. "Now," Ryan said, and we ran to the principal's office. Ryan knocked quickly on the door, and a deep voice answered from inside. "Come in." Principal Brown was sitting behind his desk, apparently in the middle of a phone call. He looked up in surprise as we entered and closed the door. Behind us. "I'll get back to you," he said quickly into the phone before hanging up. "Mitchell, Callahan, you have exactly 5 seconds to explain why I shouldn't call security right now." "Sir." "Carter Daniels is a traitor," Ryan said bluntly, placing the duffel bag of evidence on the director's desk. "He's been selling information to Anton Volkov for the past 3, compromising operations and putting agents at risk." Principal Brown stared at us for a long moment, his face unreadable. "These are extremely serious charges, Callahan. I have evidence, sir." "It's all here." Ryan began pulling folders and drives from his backpack. Money transfers to offshore accounts, encrypted communication, patterns of failed transactions. It all points to Carter. The director studied the documents in silence for a few minutes. His face grew more and more serious as he examined the evidence. "Why run?" he asked finally, looking at Ryan. "Why didn't you bring this to me directly?" "Because Carter caught me gathering evidence. He forced me to email Lauren ending our relationship and tried to keep me in custody. I escaped, but I knew he would use all the Bureau's resources to find me before I could expose him." Principal Brown nodded slowly. "And all that abandoned wedding Daniels in my office immediately, and send a backup team as well." He hung up and looked at us. "If what you're saying is true and this evidence is compelling, then we have a serious Homeland Security problem. But I need to hear Carter's side of the story, too." "Sir, with all due respect," Ryan said urgently, "Carter is dangerous. He won't just confess. I don't expect you to confess, Callahan. I expect to see your reaction when confronted with this evidence. Sometimes, that's all we need." The next few minutes were tense. Ryan and I sat in chairs away from the door at the director's request. He put the evidence in his drawer, except for a few documents he strategically placed on the table. Finally, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," called the director. Carter entered, followed by 2 armed officers. He stopped abruptly when he saw us. "Sir," he said, quickly recovering. "I see you found the fugitive." "Yes," the director replied calmly. "They came to me. Actually, with a very interesting story." Carter's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "Sir, Ryan isn't his usual self. He's been showing signs of instability and now he's kidnapped Lieutenant Mitchell." "I wasn't kidnapped," I interrupted. "Ryan was protecting me from you." Carter feigned surprise. "Me? What are you talking about, Carter?" said Director Brown. "They brought evidence suggesting that you have been working as an informant for Anton Volkov." Carter laughed, but there was an underlying tension in his voice. "That's absurd. Ryan clearly fabricated this evidence as part of his delusion. The evidence seems quite compelling to me," the director continued, flipping through some of the documents on the table. "Bank transfers coinciding with operational failures, encrypted communication, witnesses placing him in meetings with known associates of Volkov." As the director spoke, I noticed Carter's hand move subtly toward his gun holster. Ryan must have noticed, too, because he slowly stood up. "Carter," Ryan said calmly, "it's over. Don't make it worse." For a moment, time seemed to Carter looked from Ryan to the director, then to the 2 agents behind him, weighing his options. Then, in a movement so quick I could barely follow it, he drew his gun. The security officers reacted immediately, drawing their own weapon. But Carter had already grabbed Principal Brown, using him as a human shield, with the gun pressed against his head. "Everyone, stay where you are!" Carter shouted. "Put your weapons down or he dies." The agents hesitated, looking to the director for guidance. Ryan remained perfectly still, but I could see his eyes assessing every angle, every possibility. "Carter," the director said with surprising calm, "think about what you're doing. There's no way out for you in this scenario." "Shut up," Carter growled. "All of you, stay away from the door. We're going out, and if anyone tries to follow me, the warden will be shot." Slowly, we all moved away from the door as ordered. Carter began to back away, dragging the director with him. "It won't work, Carter," Ryan said. "The building is surrounded. There's nowhere to go." "There's always a way out, Ryan," Carter replied, a tight smile on his face. "You should know that." As they approached the door, I saw Ryan glance quickly at me, then at the heavy lamp on the side table near where I was standing. A look of understanding passed between us. Just as Carter was about to walk out the door, I grabbed the lamp and threw it as hard as I could at him. I missed him, but the distraction was enough for Principal Brown to duck, partially freeing himself from Carter's grip. In that moment of confusion, Ryan lunged forward, launching himself at Carter. The 2 men fell to the ground, struggling for the gun. I heard a deafening shot, and my heart stopped for a moment in terror. Security officers quickly intervened, separating the 2 men. To my immense relief, I saw that Ryan was unharmed. Carter, on the other hand, was bleeding from his shoulder, apparently hit by his own gunshot. "Carter Daniels," one of the agents said, handcuffing him, "you are under arrest for treason, attempted murder, and numerous other charges we will be happy to list later." As Carter was led away, Principal Brown composed himself, adjusting his tie as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. "Well," he said, "that was more dramatic than usual for a Wednesday night." Ryan approached me, checking to see if I was okay. I assured him I was, still shaking from the adrenaline. "Lieutenant Mitchell, Agent Callahan," the director said, returning to his seat behind his desk, "you both demonstrated extraordinary courage and dedication. It will not be forgotten." In the hours that followed, Ryan and I were separated to give formal statements about everything that had happened. Teams were dispatched to arrest known associates of Carter and to protect potential targets. A larger operation was being organized to finally arrest Anton Volkov, using the evidence Ryan had collected. It was almost dawn when we were finally allowed to leave. We were exhausted, but relieved. The truth had been revealed, the betrayal exposed. Ryan took me to a nearby hotel, where we could rest under the protection of FBI agents. In the room, we finally had some privacy. "Sorry about the wedding," Ryan said, a small smile forming on his lips. I laughed despite myself. Well, it was certainly memorable. Not many brides can say they were chased by the FBI on what was supposed to be their special day. Ryan pulled me close, kissing me softly. We can try again. When this is all over. Only if you promise not to disappear this time. I promise, he said solemnly. Actually, I was thinking, why wait? We could do something small, just the two of us, once this mess calms down. No groomsmen this time, I joked. Looks like we're out of luck with them. Ryan laughed, and for the first time in days, I felt like things could finally go back to normal, or at least to a new normal. 3 weeks later, in a small beach ceremony with only our closest families present, Ryan and I were finally. Principal Brown served as our official witness, a symbolic gesture of his gratitude. Anton Volkov was arrested in a joint FBI and Interpol operation. Carter faced multiple charges of treason and espionage, with a lengthy prison sentence virtually guaranteed. As for me, I decided to leave the Navy and accept an offer to work in the FBI's counterintelligence division, ironically, the same department where Carter's betrayal had begun. Ryan said I had a natural talent for investigation, and after our adventure, it was hard to disagree. In the end, our wedding disaster turned out to be something quite different than it initially seemed. It wasn't the abandonment of a cowardly fiancé, but the beginning of a story that tested our trust, our courage, and our love in ways we never could have imagined. And what about the 3 discreet calls my FBI fiancé made that fateful morning? I later discovered they were to his true allies within the Bureau, the few he still trusted. These calls launched the investigation that would eventually reveal the truth and bring us back together. Sometimes, when we tell our story, people say it sounds like a movie script. Maybe it is. But for us, it was simply proof that when you truly love someone, you trust them even when all the evidence seems to point against you. And sometimes, just sometimes, that trust is rewarded in the most extraordinary way possible.